Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ale, short for Alejandra. Thank you for being here and sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it. I originally filmed this video a few months ago, but it was when I was having some issues with my microphone, and I think the video was like 50 something minutes long, and I realized that there was no audio, and I just needed some time between that filming and this filming so that I could sit down and do it again in a way that still felt authentic. I think if I had filmed it right away afterwards, I think I would have been trying too hard to repeat word for word what I said in the first video, but I think enough time has passed where I actually don't even really remember what I was saying in the first video. So hopefully that will work out. But essentially what I wanted to do, as you can see here, is show you how my journaling has evolved over the years. This is only a small, a small amount, or a curated collection of them, I guess. There are some journals that I've kept when I was like in my first year of high school, for example, or my last year of elementary school, that cannot see the light of day. Those thoughts were simply too unhinged to ever be publicized in any respect. So I've just selected some of my most prized ones, and also the ones that I've traveled, because most of these lived in Ontario, where I moved from, and I've since brought these back with me to BC. So these are the ones I'm going to share. I believe they start in 2018 and then kind of jump back and forth. I was more consistent some years, less consistent other years. So I'll go into it now and we can go through it together. I forget the person's name, but someone did comment in one of my videos a while ago if I could do this, if I could make a video about this topic, and I was so glad that someone cared. So I'm so glad to be doing this. Okay, enough disclaimers and introductions. Let's get into it. We are starting with this small and mighty one. And one of the main reasons why I love this journal as much as I do is because this was the beginning of my travel journaling. And I just can't believe that this is how small I chose. It's also like truly falling apart. It's just kind of a disaster of a notebook, but I love it. And this was from my first ever backpacking trip with my best friend Hannah. It was 2018, I think. And yeah, I was really feeling that minimalistic pressure of backpacking where I felt like everything needed to be tiny. And yeah, this is what I chose, but I wouldn't change a thing. And it's so interesting to see how minimalist my travel journal was at one point, and now it's more of a production, if you will. And as you can see, I titled it here, Up Next, A Messy Journal. And then I had my German words to get around, our itinerary, which is so cute. And I would do these little arrows, which I still to this day do to some extent, the Toronto to Frankfurt. And I still also do this, the jot notes in my, I have those tiny notebooks where I do this. And I would, just so that I didn't forget what we did. And again, Frankfurt to Stuttgart, things like that. But a lot of this was just me like doing full writing, okay? I'm always kind of scared to know what 18-year-old or 19-year-old Ale was writing. So we'll be a bit careful. There was one that I really want to show you all, which I think is so cute. Oh, here we go. We had gone to this, I don't know what it's called, a festival, if you will, and we went on all these different roller coasters, and I made little doodles of them and our ratings of them. So here, like, you can see the doodle of how the ride, it's just so silly, but every time I look at this journal, it really makes me chuckle because it just felt so, there was no expectation with this notebook, you know? It was just writing whatever I wanted, and I will treasure it always. So that's 2018 travel journal. So cute. Then we can, as you can see, a lot of these are really struggling to stay alive, okay? This was originally held on by these little yarns. And then one day, I don't know what took over me, but there was a lot of pages in the back that I hadn't used up, but as you can see, it was so chunky that I took it upon myself to just take the yarn out and then just put these like rings in here, but it's not very sturdy, but I had to. It was getting way too thick. Anyway, this journal also is December 2018, so about to be 2019, and I think I was really exploring more creative journaling, if you will. I was playing with a lot of collaging, layering. I was burning a lot of papers to give it kind of a vintagey retro feel. Some are blank pages that I never got around to filling. Yeah, just a little bit more creative, but still very much just a way to make days that probably didn't feel all that special a bit more special. This is so silly. My first time drunk, December 14th, 2018. Wow, I was 19. Which I guess in my circle of friends, I was the last, what? Everybody in my life had drank alcohol before, but I've never really cared all that much about alcohol. So I was late to the game. But that's crazy that there's, you know, that exists somewhere in my journal. But yeah, as you can see, it's definitely way more creative. But I think it's really sweet, and just goes to show how our journaling styles change so much throughout the years, and you don't actually have to stick to it. Like if it stops working for you, you can always change. So that's really fun. Look at these. So pretty. But also, obviously, extremely time consuming to do these. So this now in my life would not be feasible at all. Like just, there's no way. There's no way. Oh my gosh, guys. In 2019, I was still writing about London. London, perpetual state of nostalgia. I miss the impermanence of the sun. I miss the accent that makes me feel as if I were putting on a cozy hat on a cold winter's day. I took home with me one of the rainy clouds that frequently littered the English sky. It has taken residence on my visage. Oh God, this is so cheesy. Raindrops trickle down my cheeks when I think of London. Wow. There we go. Oh, that's someone's email. Let's not show that. Alas, you get the idea. Way more creative, but still just collecting ephemera still. These are all like business cards that I was storing and very cleverly storing away. There we go. Tickets that back in the day I did not bother to scan, so a lot of them are really quite faded. Yeah, very cute. But again, extremely time consuming. So I think I did this kind of journaling one more year, but then after that kind of gave it a rest. Okay, as you can see, this one was very loved. This is an MD paper notebook, and it is gigantic, but very satisfying to look at. When I originally started this notebook, I think it was this one, yeah, that I had already done a few pages in it that I didn't want. I don't know why I chose to cut them out. I could have just kept them even though it was maybe at a different time. Anyway, I cut them out. That's fine. And back then, I didn't have a fixed style of journaling, right? Like sometimes I would do a lot of these just traditional long form diary entries, and I was playing around with different pen colors, you know, clearly playing around with that. But a lot of big themes, and I would like title them. So this entry was love, overwhelmed, nostalgia. What's this one? Oh, my own priority. And then first entry. And then I think too, as great as it was to have those outlets, a lot of the time it was very time consuming, as you may imagine, or not. I didn't always have like what I thought were eloquent and thought-provoking things to write about, so then I wouldn't want to write. And then I kind of shifted to, okay, this version of myself was really into like Rupi Kaur, if you know who that Canadian poet is, which is like very, I think now the critique of her is that it's very like, it's poetry. I don't want to do that because of course, you know, who are we to judge someone's writing? And at the time it was very impactful to me, but I think there are certain people that critique it because it's kind of, it's not deep enough. It's a bit, it relies too much on like, I don't know, sentimentality, if that makes sense. But regardless, I was deeply, deeply inspired by her at age 20. And I would write, like, it's so embarrassing. I can't show you guys what I would, the things that I would write, okay? Because it's really cheesy. But it was still kind of in that same vein where I was doing a lot of collaging and creative decorating, if you will. I mean, this one's, I find them all a bit cringe, but I think that's because we're all very hard on ourselves, but this one's not too bad. And it's twirl while you cry always. The tears will cease and you'll be left dancing. Yeah, clearly I was going through some difficult things at this time. And a lot of the writing that I was doing was really sad. So we don't need to really reflect on that. And then, so I guess those were written when I was 19, and then we moved to 2020, and that's when I was doing a lot of gratitude journaling because I didn't know how else to survive. And then we returned to more long form writing. Oh, that's a swear word. Yeah, long form writing. I'm gonna flick quickly because again, a lot of these are quite deep and heavy thoughts, naturally in the middle of the pandemic. Then we return to those cheesier, oh gosh, pieces of writing. And then once again, we're back to very creative entries, which are really cute, and I'm not mad at them. I think this is one of my favorite ones. I think this is so gorgeous and beautiful, and I'm very proud of myself for this. I did a lot of white stamping back then, which I think looks really beautiful. But yeah, I think in 2020 I had excess amounts of free time, so that resulted in a lot of these beautiful spreads that I'm still really proud of to this day. But again, it's really not realistic for me to think that and I always tuck things in here, but some of the things I don't really want to show on the internet. Yeah, sorry, I don't have the time to make spreads as elaborate as this. I simply have too much going on. Yeah, these are so cute though. And when I look back on these, I think whenever I'm feeling like I'm lacking inspiration or creativity, this is definitely a journal that I that I flip through when I want to remind myself that these are things that I once did do, and maybe even if I never do this exact style of journaling again, I can still get inspiration from my own creations. This is one of my favorite quotes. People can only Peace can only be found from within. Do not seek it without. I think like most people, when they're 19 or 20, we're all discovering a lot about ourselves and the people around us and the world, and you can really see that when you look through these notebooks, I think, and when I read the things that I was writing or that were really in my head at the time. But I'm grateful to have taken the time to write them, because it's like one of those things when people ask you, like, what would you save in a fire? It's these journals. And oftentimes I would type up, if I had big days or big moments in my life that I had lots to say, like a big recap of that moment, I would often just type it up on my laptop and then print it out and then slide it into a pretty envelope. Ta-da! Anyway, you get the idea. Very beautiful, very cute. That's it. Okay, this was when I first started dabbling with the Traveler's Notebook system. Okay, I think I mentioned this in a video before. I started using this system in 2019, but I didn't own the real one. For many reasons, one of them being the price. As a 18, 19-year-old, it was not in my price point, but also as I didn't want to buy leather products for my own ethical reasons, but my thoughts on that have kind of changed over the years, because as you can see, even though I wasn't buying leather, I'm still buying plastic items that don't last nearly as long. So it's kind of that dilemma of like, do you buy leather products and know that they'll last way longer and therefore you'll be consuming less plastic or things that don't, like you're essentially buying more things that will end up being waste quicker. Anyway, that's a dilemma has nothing to do with this video, so I'll leave it at that. But as always, I've always kept these little file folders, and I kept, to this day, it's all in here. All the different things that I did, the view from the Shard, Kew Gardens, my Ryanair tickets, wristbands, all of the things. It just kind of exists like that, and I don't change it whatsoever. I also have more little pockets here where I kept more things. HMS Belfast, Tower Bridge, and this is definitely a change from the first white notebook that I showed you. I was definitely putting a little bit more, it was a bit more neat. I was doing more little titles, but I still only had one color. I had one pen and then one Tombow marker, which is that peachy pink one. And that was kind of, I was still like quite minimal, I guess is what I'm trying to say, but there was a bit more order. And I was still pasting in a lot of my tickets. Yeah, really cute. Oh, just when I look at these, I just think this is so beautiful to have. Like a true record of the things that I experienced when I was younger. This is so cute. Reminder to myself for future Ale. Being genuine and kind is a wonderful thing. You're creating so many new bonds. You're a social butterfly. Channel this confidence always. Being called Ale and Alejandra makes your heart warm. You should continue introducing yourself like that in Canada. For context, before I went on this trip, I was born in Mexico, moved to Canada, and then in Canada, my name, Ale, or Alejandra, was suddenly very confusing for English speakers, so for years, I went by Ali, and then after this trip, even though like my family and everyone in Mexico calls me Ale, but in Canada, it was Ali, and then I went on this trip, and then everyone started calling me Ale, or Alejandra, and it made me realize that I am allowed to ask my English speaking friends to at least tried to pronounce my name the correct way. And it was honestly a really important self-discovery, which sounds maybe a little bit silly for people that may have never experienced that kind of thing before. But, you know, your name was chosen by your parents, and it often reflects the country and the culture that you're from. So being able to kind of reconnect with that was really important to my 20-year-old self, and it's now something that I practice on a daily basis without even thinking about it. I don't think I can't, only very rarely do I say Ali, because I kind of just read the room and see that this person will simply never attempt to say my name correctly. Yeah, this one says, I am so, swear word, proud of you. Little Ale is so, so proud. Always, always, always prioritize your own happiness. Life is too short to do otherwise. Just very cute, and I'm so glad that I have these. This is another one that I never finished writing, but that's okay. Yeah, just really, these make my heart burst, truly. And like things like this make me chuckle, because clearly I didn't have anything to like stick things on with, so I used a hair clip, because why not? A bobby pin, I guess. I love that. So fun. Yeah, a lot of just straight on writing, and then again some gluing. And like I had mentioned, I was still doing these, like the name of the city and then arrow to the next city. I was also keeping bills and currency depending on what country I went to. Another entry that I never got back to. More tickets. Oh my gosh, so fun and so lovely. And way, way more tickets here. Which again, I'm so glad that these are still all here. And when I went on the trip, I brought 2 notebooks, 2 inserts, which I fully used up. And I had to go to Muji, I remember. And and at Muji, I bought this like orangey ink pen, which, I mean, when I look at this color, it reminds me of this trip, but now I would never really pick that color. That's okay. And then so many wristbands from a lot of pub crawls that I was going to. And then I was gluing different, like the currency in Poland, which is so cool. Yeah, just a lot of fun things. And none of this, like, aside from sure buying the notebooks, like there's no actual stationery in here, like, you know, ticket, like stickers or anything. It's really all just ephemera and coins, which is one of my favorite things that I did back then, I think, the fact that I put coins. And I forgot to mention that in my little white notebook, I would typically write how long, how many steps I took. And that's something that I've been re-implementing into my travel journals, because I think it's really cool to see that. And then another thing that I'm implementing into my travel journals is writing down the conversion rate, because I think it's so interesting to see what the conversion rate was, because I think over time you forget, but when you're in the moment, like when you're actually traveling, it's kind of it's a huge deal, obviously. But yeah, more tickets, more coins, and it just looks beautiful. I think I just look at this and I'm like, yeah, that's a stunning spread, even though it really required a whole lot of nothing, really. Anyway, you get it. And then this was such a sweet thing. I asked a dear friend of mine named Ale, actually, but his name is Alejandro, to doodle something for me. And he decided to doodle our hostel in Croatia, where we both volunteered for a month and grew to be very, very close. So the fact that I have his artwork in my notebook, and it's of the hostel where we stayed for a month, like, truly can make me cry. So we'll leave it at that. And then, yeah, this was the one that I picked up at Muji. And yeah, it's just so beautiful. Not to toot my own horn, but I do think this is so gorgeous, and I love it. We got our my friend and I, when we were in Croatia, we got our ears pierced. So I doodled where I got mine, and I doodled where she got hers. and I wrote down the price of it, the pain level, post-pain care. Mine got really infected just because I wasn't careful, so it was kind of a nightmare afterwards. Oh, shouldn't include that one. Yeah, little doodles. My friend celebrated her birthday when we were traveling. Oh, just so amazing. A little photo of my friend playing the guitar. And then here, as I said, I spent a month in Zagreb volunteering. So I wrote, "Thank you, Zagreb. I leave a piece of my heart with you. I say goodbye with a body aching from laughs and a heart bursting with love." And that's true. I still feel that way to this day. And I wrote that 6 years ago. So special. This here that says, "We did it, Opa." I went to Salzburg in Austria, which was one of the cities that my grandpa, who's no longer alive, really wanted to go to. And I went and bought a lock and got his name engraved in it. And then I put it on the bridge. And it felt so wonderful to know that I kind of had him. I was able to get him there, you know? Anyway, a lot of doodles, a lot of thoughts, a lot of pasting of tickets and coins, entries that never got finished, but that's okay. And then also later on, there's more photo booth pictures, which are so cute. Yeah, oh yeah, when I went to the Harry Potter studios, which was so cool. Anyway, you get the idea. All very fun and exciting, and a notebook that I treasure with my whole heart because this was 5 months of my life, and this is truly like the notebook. Okay, up next is another faux traveler's notebook. This was also like actually just used for travel. And I think back then I kind of thought that I could only, look at all this. Oh my gosh. That I could only use, a traveler's notebook for travel. Haha. Which obviously now I feel very differently about, as you know. This was a letter that my best friend had written for me, and it's still in here because I wanted to have it with me at all times on my trip. But this is, what day is this? What year, I guess? 2020, February 2020, so right before the pandemic. This is, I guess, slightly out of order, but this is really cute. It's a little letter on gratitude, and I wrote how happy I was to be able to be traveling once again. And this journal is a bit shorter because I was only gone for 5 weeks or a month or something like that. And I would do a lot of like the free London newspaper that they'd have. I would cut it out so that I had the date, which I think looked really cool. And yeah, this is pretty much standard as the other one was. My 3 best guy friends flew out to London, and we had the biggest blast of all time. We always joke that we're like that annoying friend group that went on one trip, and 5 or 6 years later, it's still the only thing that we talk about. But it was so fun. Yeah, again, not a lot of this is just straight up writing, but then there are some photo booth photos which were so cute. Amazing. Oh, a boarding pass that's pretty much gone. Oh, a Pull and Bear jacket because I was very much underdressed, and I still wear this jacket to this day, and it was 35 euros. That's not too bad. The Van Gogh Museum, one of my favorite museums ever. Oh my gosh, a lot of these are hanging on for dear life, but that's okay. Oftentimes I will have written where I was eating. Yeah, like SLA. I don't even remember what that is. I guess a restaurant of sorts. So even if that fades, the writing behind it will still have it. And then I guess I packed these little tiny stamps for this writing, which I think is quite cute. Anyway, I think that's kind of it for the most part. But alas, another faux traveler's notebook that was dearly loved. But again, this one's in better condition because I only used it for a month as opposed to the other one that I used for almost half a year. So they got worn in different ways. And then we move on to this one, which is a Ferris wheel press notebook. And again, like I've mentioned before, there have been moments in my life where I've journaled more and moments where I've journaled less. This is 2023. I was once again back on like a very creative journal method, which are cute, but again, this was at a time when I was taking a break from being a working adult due to some mental health stuff. So I had a lot of spare time, which is why I could do these really elaborate spreads, but again, not feasible when I'm trying to fit in as many things as I possibly can in my day. But regardless, looking back on these is so satisfying, and it makes me feel very proud about these spreads. Like this one is so beautiful. So yeah, I'm obviously very glad that I did these, and I think whenever, at any point in my life that I look back on these, I'll be like, oh, that was so gorgeous. But I don't know that I could keep doing it to this day. And then a lot of these, like, look at this. I would set it up, but I wouldn't go back in here and do them. And then we'd go back. And a lot of them are mainly, like, more heavy on the decoration or the ephemera, and then less heavy on the writing. And again, this year was 2023, and went through some heavy things in 2023. And I kind of my relationship with journaling was a bit complicated. So I made this spread that I wrote in 2024, and I kind of just did, like, now that the fresh feelings had kind of passed, I could do like a, hey, this is what you miss and what has happened. So I wrote that, I typed that down and printed it on on paper that I had dyed with tea, which I think is really nice to know that I kind of did a recap so that I don't feel like that year was as limited as it was, I guess. But since then, in 2024, every so often I would go back in and do some backfilling, as you can see here. And it's like a nice thing to do, where I don't feel like super obligated to do. It's just like, if I want to, I can. But a lot of it is just like me pasting photos, and maybe one day I'll get back to it. This is a really lovely spread from when Michael and I went to see the 1975. But yeah, a lot of them, there's not much writing in there. This was from Michael's second shoulder surgery. A trip to Tofino we did right before that surgery. Yeah, a lot of it is not finished, but that's okay. I know it's kind of here, and I can come to it when I'm ready, if I'm ready. Good food. But that's it. I know I could easily not show this, like show the empty pages and pretend like I've always been extremely consistent with journaling, but that would simply be, I would be lying, and I never want to portray myself or this hobby or this practice of mine as one that is perfect, because it very, very much is not. It's just there for us, and when we want to tap into it, we can. When we don't want to, we don't have to. But I'm very grateful to the versions of myself that took the time to write about our life, because reading them for me is something that's very important. I am one of those people that does reread my journals. So the fact that my past self took the time to do it is it's something I wish I could hug. Well, I guess I can't hug myself, but I actually wish I could hug my past self and tell her thank you. And I'm very grateful now that I have a system that works so well for me, because it allows for there to be less gaps, because I have a consistent way of journaling, if that makes sense. But it's taken many years to get there. The system, I guess, that I discovered that I'm super our little I'm connected to, I only discovered it at the beginning of last year. So I was 24, 25. That's many years of trying different systems and different notebooks and succeeding a bit more, succeeding a bit less. You know what I mean? I won't go these journals. This is just a place where I keep more of my completed inserts, but these are all the journals that I filled in last year, and there's full videos on that, so I won't show you those in this video because I fear this video is already really long. But anyway, I will put all these here again. Anyway, friends, those are all of the notebooks I'm going to share with you today. I hope it's interesting to see the things that I've tried, or I guess the common denominators in them, because I do think there are some things that I clearly have always liked to do and have always returned to, or things that I like to do when I have excess amount of time. But yeah, that's all of them in all their glory, and I'm so excited to continue to add to the collection, even the ones that I find simply just insane. 13-year-old me, I mean, at least she had her journal, so she could get all those pent up feelings and emotions out onto a safe space without hurting anyone's feelings. Okay, anyway, that's it for today. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you when I see you. Let's blow out our candles. Okay, bye. Mwah.